Hi everyone, so nice to meet you again. I'm so thrilled to do this video. It's been a while since I started thinking about it, so I finally think it's time to make it, essentially, yeah. So today we're gonna dive into JavaScript and into PowerQuery. So these two languages are kind of similar but kind of different. And if you want to do anything within Power BI, then you must know PowerQuery. But if you're coming from a JavaScript world, never seen PowerQuery before, PowerQuery can seem a bit daunting because there are some things that are completely different and kind of the structure of the code is a bit different. But hopefully today I'll make this more clear. By giving you concrete examples on how to do something in JavaScript as compared to how I would do something similar in PowerQuery. All right, so let's get started. Here, and full disclaimer before we're going on, where we move on, is you can do everything that I'll show you here on a Mac. Yes, you heard correctly. So PowerQuery is not limited to Windows only, which is perfect because I really like working on a Mac. And this is really a way to go here. So as you know, Power BI itself is not available on a Mac, but Excel is. And as you may or may not know, Excel on a Mac also includes PowerQuery. So how do I go to it? How do I open it? So I have my Excel here. So let me just go to the Data tab. And I just clicked it twice, so it disappeared. And now I can go here to get data and launch PowerQuery editor. It's as simple as that. Perfect. Now I'll just put it to the side so it's easier to see, but it should not make a difference. And now I have my full-blown PowerQuery here. Now it's not as full-blown as you might think. So the PowerQuery language itself, the M language, is quite powerful, and I'm learning every day what's missing and what's actually included but is not available on the front end through the user interface. So yeah, let's dive right into it. Let's start with a simple hello world. How would I write hello world in JavaScript? And you already know the answer because you see it on the screen. It's just, I would go to console.log hello world, and this would give me my hello world. If I run this in Node.js, so Node, JavaScript examples, I get my hello world. This is just what I expected. So if I want to do something similar in PowerQuery, I would go to queries, right click here, click on new query, and then click on blank query. And what this does, I'll just click next, so I don't have this weird sidebar. And now I can click on right click on this query again and click on advanced editor. And here what I can do is this is the out of the box query that you get when you open up PowerQuery editor. So just as a simple reference, in JavaScript we're writing scripts, and in PowerQuery we are writing queries. Hence the name, of course. And queries and scripts aren't that different. Now with queries always return a value. So in JavaScript, there was no value returned. It was just something was printed in console. Let's say if I do in JavaScript, let a equals 1, 2, 3, and I run node again, of course I would not get no output because this was not printed out to console. But what if I go to PowerQuery, and as you can see there's this let keyword, which is pretty similar to what JavaScript has. If I just remove the line endings here, you can see this line is really similar to JavaScript one. So if I just remove this string here and enter 1, 2, 3 and click on OK, I get 1, 2, 3. And to do it properly, let me go back to advanced editor and type out hello world. Okay, so this is how you would do hello world in JavaScript as compared to PowerQuery. So let's maybe dive a bit deeper into what happened here. So in PowerQuery, I have this let keyword and I have this source name, which is actually a variable. And what this in does, in stands for return. So yeah, whenever you want to return, so in kind of terminates the query, stops it. That's the final statement. And whatever you put after in will get returned as a result. So I believe I can also do hello world here. Let me try that. That's non-trivial, all right, but I still get hello world. So it still works, but that's not how PowerQuery likes it. So as you see, there's a source and there's an output, and it cannot match the variables. So maybe I jumped into this a bit too quickly. So let me go back to the advanced editor and bring back the source here and create a new line, and let me call it source 2, and this one would be hello 2. And what you can see is that I put a little comma here, and comma is the way to separate lines in PowerQuery. So in JavaScript you would go console log hello world, and then if you want to do another line you would just put an underscore a semicolon here. So if I want to do hello 2, this is how I would do it. So console log whatever you want to print, and then semicolon, which is actually not required, it can work without it as well. And if I go to Node JavaScript examples, I get both of these things, whereas with PowerQuery I just get the thing which I return. So there's no console per se in PowerQuery, you just get the result printed out in this editor. So I get hello 2, and as you can see I get both of my variables listed here, and they're listed as steps. So each time you create a variable, it creates another step in this editor. So I can have two, at the moment I have 2 steps here in the query. But of course, PowerQuery is much more powerful than just for it, and it can be used for many other things, except for just printing hello world on the screen. But I like the approach of, I always like the comparison. So masters first learn the basics, and then because they know the basics, the more concrete and complex examples come more easier to them. So yeah, I really want to walk you through the basics, the basic syntax. We'll look at conditionals, we'll look at looping, we'll look at objects, arrays, and all this fancy stuff that you get in JavaScript, and they are available in PowerQuery too. So let me dive right into it. Let me see here. So yeah, let's just focus on the variables just for a bit more. So in JavaScript I have this basic types. So we created a number here, and now I can go. Let me use the similar this syntax here. So b equals false. So I just use that syntax to make it kind of similar to PowerQuery, but so you can use a single let keyword in JavaScript and separate the assignments with commas, and you do exactly the same thing within PowerQuery. So we have source, hello world, and there is this comma here, and there's this let keyword, so these two are pretty similar. So I can, as you saw earlier, I can put a number here. So this is a number, and it can be a decimal as well. And what I can do as well is just type in false. And this gets registered as a boolean. And now what I can do is, you already know the strings, so what if I just print out the source? It'll get registered as a boolean because it's all caps, and this means that PowerQuery understands it. So you already know how this works in JavaScript, you now seen it how it works in PowerQuery. So this is how to declare variables. Essentially just type them out line by line, and you can use booleans, you can use strings, you can use numbers, and this is everything that we saw. So apart from let's say trivial numbers, I forgot what's the proper word for it, but you can also create functions within PowerQuery. And now let me show you a really simple example just to get started, and then we'll go wild later. Okay, so in JavaScript, to create a function, you can use the full-blown function example. Function add numbers, and then let me put x and y, and return x plus y. So if now I can go ahead and do console.log add numbers 1 and 2, and if I save this and call JavaScript again, I get 1 plus 2 equals 3. This is just what I would expect, of course. And in PowerQuery, and I now realized I forgot to tell you that you can also do all kinds of arithmetic operations here in PowerQuery. So of course you can do 123.34 plus 6.66, and now I can return this source, click on OK, and I got 130. I guess that's what this number set up to. But if I go back to advanced editor, instead of doing that, I can also create a function, and functions are lambdas in PowerQuery. So when you can create a lambda in JavaScript as well. Lambda is just a shorthand for a function. If I can do const lam equals a b, and then this operator here, and then I can do a plus b. And if I go console log lam, I cannot type anymore today. All right, so if I do that and then go to, I would get 3 as well. So I can, this is a lambda, this is a function. It takes 2 parameters, a and b, and it just adds them up. And I can do something really similar in PowerQuery as well. So let me create a function called add numbers, which is equal to, and then lambda a and b, and define that by a plus b. And now I can use that lambda with as follows. So let me do 6 equals to add numbers, and enter doesn't work apparently. So I can do 3, 3, and replace this source with 6. Let me see if I put down the commas correctly. It looks like I did, and now I can click on OK, and I get 6. So this is how to define functions in PowerQuery. You can just use the lambda syntax, and you can use the parameters here, and this is the return value. Okay, now let's say you want to create a bit more complex logic within a function, and one line is not enough for you. Let's say you want to create multiple steps within the functions. Now in JavaScript, you could use this syntax, just a full-blown function, and you can use this this curly braces to group the statements together. And within Lambda, you can use something similar. I can do this opening brace, and now I need to type in return here. So this is how I would do it. So I can now create another const here, const 1 equals 1, and let me do +1. This might not be the most useful example in the world, but let's call it a day. So this function takes 2 numbers, sums them, and adds this 1. And let me run it, and it outputs 4. So if I was to do something similar in PowerQuery, there's this tiny change, and so which is, instead of curly braces, you need to use the regular ones. So you can just do regular brace start and then regular brace stop. And if I just do that, I actually never tested this. Let me try this out. So if I click OK, okay, so token is expected. Let me terminate this line, then OK. It works, so it outputs 6. And if I do, but what I can do is use the same let in kind of structure within the function as well. So if I want to add more statements to this function, I could go, I could introduce another let here. So let me type in let, and then sum equals to a plus b, and then let me define the 1 variable, which I have in my JavaScript as well. 1 equals 1, comma, and comma again, and let me type in, and I can return, let me do sum plus 1 equals 1 plus sum. All right, so I can now output sum plus 1 in. Let me see if I forgot a comma here again. And let's see, so I'm using this add numbers, and I've extended it that it not only adds these numbers up together, but it also adds this constant here to this sum. And I'm returning this sum plus 1, and instead of 6, what should I get here? I should get 7, which is correct because we added one more number. So this is how we would go about creating this multiple statements per function. Okay, are you ready for some PowerQuery madness? Okay, let's do it. So there is one really special trick within PowerQuery which I was not aware for a long time. And here it is. So there is actually a shorthand way to define functions, and it's using a special keyword, and it's called each. And if you've ever used PowerQuery before, you might have seen this each and did not know what it stands for. So instead of let's create another function. Let's call divide. Divide equals x, and then let me divide this by 1.5. Let's make it bigger, for example. All right. Okay. So if instead of typing this, so this is a regular lambda. So I'm receiving this variable x, and I'm dividing it by 1.5. But instead of this whole shebang, what I can do is I can type in each, and I can just get rid of this whole thing and replace x with an underscore. And let's see what this does. So if I if I create another variable to use this number called division, equals divide, and let me call it with 3. And if I return this division now, and I click OK, I get 2. All right, what did it do? So if I go to advanced editor again, so each is really a shorthand for so along divide. So instead of each and this underscore, I could simply type a lambda, replace this x with an underscore, and then use underscore divided by 1.5. So these two lines are exactly the same. They do exactly the same thing, but the smart people at who created PowerQuery thought that each might be just more easy to understand, which I must say I disagree with, because I'm much more used to just typing out lambdas, and it makes a whole lot more sense to me. But here's how you do it. So each keyword is essentially just a clever little trick to confuse developers. No, just kidding. To not have to type out this whole lambda shebang. And yeah, that's essentially how you use each. So there's actually one more trick with each, but I'm gonna show it to you a bit later. I'm talking about this one specifically. What is this? What is this? I mean, seriously, but it's just a shorthand table accessor, whatever. Let's focus on this a bit later. Just keep in mind that there's another small pinch of salt here hidden for you to find out yourself. But I will focus on it just a bit later when we come to tables and records and all this fun stuff. All right, that was fun. Now, the last thing today, I realized this video is getting very long, so I'll split it into 2 parts, at least, I guess. The last thing I want to do today is let's do a little machine learning, shall we? It's not really machine learning per se, but you'll see what I'm getting at. So let's create a little a little bird detector ourselves. So you'll see what I'm thinking about this. So let's say we have a device. We have a device somewhere, and it's connected to a web API. And when it sees a creature, it has a camera and it can look at a creature and determine if it has wings. And it's kind of clever, but at the same time it's not as clever as we would hope. Anyway, let's create some code for it. So we'll take the input of this device and see if the creature that this device sees, if it has wings. And if it has wings, then we'll call it a bird. We'll detect a bird. We'll give output that it's a bird. If it doesn't have wings, then there's a pretty high chance that it's not a bird. So let's do this little bit of machine learning here. So let's say let's create another variable just for storing the result of this detection. So has wings equals false. So let's say we ran this device, we got the data, and of course PowerQuery is capable enough to extract the data from an API, but let's not focus on that just yet. But I'll show you how to do that probably in part 3 of this series. Anyway, so has wings false. We did not detect wings on this creature. So let's do a little machine learning here, shall we? Let's create a model which determines if a creature has wings. If it has wings, then it's a bird. If it doesn't have wings, then it's not a bird. So BirdDetector. This is the name of our machine learning model. We created it. It's fine. So, and what this one will do is it will take in one parameter, which is if it has birds. So I'll type in each, because now we learned that this is a shorthand way for creating functions with one parameter, and each. And now I will put in the code, which is if. This is something new, pay attention. If underscore equals has wings, if it equals to true, then it is a bird. But if it's not true, then it's false. Then I can do it's not a bird. Okay. See what I did there? So this is essentially how to create conditionals in PowerQuery. So you just put down if, and then there's this then, and then there's else. And within this else, you can nest additional if statements, which I'll show you just in a second. But let's try out our bird detector now to see if it works. So is it a bird? And that equals to bird detector. Let's call it with has wings. And I did put down all the commas. Is it a bird? Is it a bird? I returned it already, and I'll click on OK. And because it doesn't have wings, it's not a bird. Oh, okay. So let's go back, advanced editor. Let's take another measurement. This time it apparently has wings, so true. And let's run it through our little model here. And let me just click on OK. And it is a bird. Okay, it works. So we created ourselves a little bird detector. Of course, without the hardware. That's a bit harder, maybe not for this session. But anyway, yeah. So let me end right here. So we learned about so much stuff today. We even created some machine learning models today, which is not what I expected, but here we are. We discussed the basics of PowerQuery. We discussed the basics of JavaScript and how they all relate to one another. We checked the variables, we checked the functions and conditionals. And yeah, here we are. The next time I will probably focus on objects, arrays. We'll take a look at loops, and we'll also take a look at some more examples of try catch, and then we'll also start to dive into tables. Tables are a really important concept within PowerQuery. PowerQuery is all about tables. So as you know, in Excel, Excel is basically just a big table, and if you have multiple sheets, then you have multiple tables. So PowerQuery is all about tables. There are a ton of functions out there just working with tables, so it's really important to understand them. But that's not for today. I would like to thank you very much. If you stayed this long, then you truly are a hero. Thank you so much, and see you the next time. Cheers, bye.